Hello, my name is Rain and welcome to my channel where I discuss fantasy Formula 1. Logan Sargeant has been dropped by Williams as of 2 days ago, and I've been on standby waiting for Colapinto to be added to the game to sort of figure out what this actually means for F1 fantasy. But now that that has happened, Colapinto dropped like 10 minutes ago, we can finally discuss what it means for F1 fantasy teams. You do not want to miss this one. There's a lot of permutations and a lot of things that have changed. So let's get right into it. So Logan Sargeant is now marked as inactive, and initially I thought this would mean that you cannot make other transfers until you've taken Logan Sargeant out. But I'm going to go over to my second team right now, which looks like this, and I'm just going to prove that I can do something else with it. Let's take out Alex Albon. Let's add in Colapinto. Continue. Confirm changes. You can make a transfer in your team while keeping an inactive Logan Sargeant on your team. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, I've already talked about plenty of times how the reason we have Logan Sargeant in our teams is because he's cheap and you can afford other assets, because you don't care about C-tier points anymore. The C-tier points are not where the points are at. You want better drivers. You want to have your 2 premium drivers to bring in the points for your team. And now, as Franco Colapinto has come in at 4.8 million, I think you can see what you can do. Now, you cannot buy Logan Sargeant. I feel like this is important. Logan Sargeant is no longer available to buy. This strategy is only available if you already had Logan Sargeant. So if you sold him last weekend after his crash in FP3 and him missing out on qualifying, you are out of luck. But for us who stuck with Logan Sargeant, you can now bring in Franco Colapinto and just save a cool 4 million from an Alex Albon. Which, Alex Albon is not someone I was excited to have anyway long term. And this just allows me to bring Lando back in and run triple McLaren with 2.3 million in the bank. So I could sell Pierre Gasly for a Magnussen, which is the superior C-tier asset. And I think this is just a no-brainer at this point. Why would I want to keep Logan Sargeant? Well, he's inactive, meaning he's not going to race, meaning he's not going to get any negative points. He's literally just going to get 0 points every single race. You give up a slot effectively, but by doing that, you can afford so many other things instead. And I don't see why you wouldn't do it. To be honest, there are arguments for selling this Logan Sargeant asset. I think the main one is if you don't need that extra money, selling Logan Sargeant. I don't even want to click the X here because I'm scared that he's going to be gone forever. If you sell Logan Sargeant for Colapinto, just looking at the Sargeant versus Colapinto comparison, if Colapinto gets 1 DNF in the remaining 9 races, I still think he's gonna get more points than what that is. But if Colapinto DNFs twice in the next 9 races, I think Logan Sargeant is a better asset than Colapinto, just points wise. I'm not betting on Colapinto to get a lot of points. One thing that's good with Colapinto for Monza specifically is that because he's a new driver, if he does well, if he ends up in the points, he is very likely to be on that driver of the day hot list. So that is something that we need to keep in mind. So I think for most managers, most strategists, I think Colapinto is a fantastic transfer in, whether you have Logan Sargeant or not. But for us who do have Logan Sargeant, I think it's better to sell another asset and just keep Logan Sargeant for now. Selling something like an Albon and then upgrading Lewis Hamilton to Lando Norris to go for that triple McLaren, the triple McLaren that looks really, really strong, considering how shocked Leclerc and Max Verstappen were in that cooldown room when they figured out, well, when Leclerc learned how far ahead Norris actually were. So that is, the triple McLaren looks really strong. Oh, I can afford this exactly with 0.1 in the back. I thought I couldn't afford this, but I can if I downgrade McLaren to Ferrari. I can get to a Lando plus Max Verstappen lineup, which again, it's something I have discussed to be a viable strategy, especially for the 3X, right? So the triple DRS that we are looking to use in a sprint race, or in a sprint weekend rather, having Lando plus Max in such a weekend would be incredible, because I think they are the two best points assets available, even if McLaren is stronger and Piastri look to outscore them sometimes, Verstappen sometimes. So if I just gain some value here on, the Pierre Gasly specifically, I could keep this as being McLaren. I don't hate this, and even if it means that I have to switch to a Mercedes Ferrari lineup, if I can just for the 3X race run Lando plus Verstappen, I might do it. So we have that, and if you have an even higher budget and you can afford McLaren Mercedes plus Lando Verstappen and another C tier, say this is an Alex Albon or a Hulkenberg, if you could afford a team like that, now we're talking. Now, there is something to be said about Max Verstappen not even being better than Oscar Piastri, and that is entirely valid. I am not, super excited about owning Max Verstappen when McLaren looked as fast. I think Oscar Piastri could definitely pop up with a win again this season. But for now, triple McLaren, having even the possibility of going to Lando plus Max for that 3X is an amazing opportunity, I suppose. No, one that I don't have to necessarily jump on, but just having that option is incredible. The triple McLaren is very, very, very likely to be what I end up going for. I don't even think I want to mess with any potential Ferrari things. Reminder, I only have 2 free transfers, so to get Lando Norris in, I would have to downgrade a C tier to Colapinto. It would be Albon. I would keep Pierre Gasly most likely, unless Williams look really fast. I might stick with the triple Williams lineup, and then upgrade Hamilton to Lando Norris to have that triple McLaren in. If you have other transfers, if you have a third one, you could upgrade Mercedes to Ferrari. If Mercedes are bad in the high temperatures and Ferrari look better, you could upgrade Pierre Gasly to something like a Magnussen here, since Magnussen is better. There are things you can do with a third transfers. I don't think they're worth a -10 in my opinion. Maybe if Ferrari look like clearly way better than Mercedes, we can do the transfer out. But again, you look at something like Zandvoort, where Mercedes looked better than Ferrari all weekend, all training sessions, and then it turns out that Mercedes were the ones to have the stinker, and Ferrari were just better than Mercedes that day. Mercedes was the 4th fastest team, and Ferrari outscored Mercedes. So you can't really trust that anyway. So you really want to bet a -10 on it. Now, I'm briefly just going to show you this because I did mention before how some people who are on a really high budget feasibly could get to a triple premium driver lineup. And now with Colapinto available at 4.8 million alongside a 4.8 million Logan Sargeant, that is not far from reality. So looking at drivers, if you just want to get the sort of best, cheapest B tier assets, we're talking Oscar Piastri probably as your DRS boosted driver. Then you add in George Russell because he's the cheapest. And look where we're at now. We're at 20.2 million. I cannot afford this, right? But I know a lot of you watching this right now could get to this. Let's say it would probably have to be a Carlos Sainz. Maybe you can reach a Lewis Hamilton who's at 24.4 million. But let's say it's a Carlos Sainz at 22.9. I am about 3 million away from this. But I know people that have 4 million more than me in their budgets that can definitely reach a team like this. Whether this outscores something like a triple McLaren team, I don't know. If you add Ferrari in here, that's... And then I'm missing, I'm missing 0.7, so 2.7 million is what I'm personally missing from reaching this team. If you're skipping out of McLaren, running Ferrari, Mercedes, and then running a Carlos Sainz alongside Piastri Russell, are you gaining on triple McLaren users? Maybe. You might be. So if you have an infinite budget and you're one of the super rich viewers of mine, look into it. Consider it. I'm not saying it's the best thing to go for. It's pretty much as close to you can get as a amazing budget building team, I guess, because I mean all your assets are B tier, so you're going to build budget like crazy. Not that budget building is important at this point of the season, but this team is not impossible, and I think those of you that have the money should look into it. Anyway, that's about it for my team for this video. If you have Logan Sargeant, let me know down below. Let me know if you're keeping him for the rest of the season. I'm definitely keeping him for this race. That much is certain. So I think I'm just locking out a dead spot in my team for the rest of the season. And I think that speaks volumes to how the scoring system currently is. The negatives are just way too high. And if I could have another inactive 4.8 million asset, I probably would, to guarantee those 0 pointers. I'm not super confident in Franco Colapinto as an option. Again, if he gets 2 DNFs, he's probably worse than an inactive Logan Sargeant throughout the course of the season. But that's about it. Let me know if there's anything I've missed. I'm very surprised that you can make transfers in your team while keeping Logan Sargeant as inactive. I did not think that was how it was going to work, but I was wrong. And well, I guess we have a new strategy on our hands. If you enjoyed this video and if you enjoy the prospect of having an inactive Logan Sargeant in your teams, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you for the deadline stream on Saturday, 2 hours before quali starts, 2 hours before the deadline. I'll see you then. Goodbye.